So hello and welcome back to Stephen's Four Wheels, and today this is going to be the last video on my Alfa Romeo Brera. Now we're going to be talking a bit about the reasons today why I'm selling this car. I'll go for a few sort of key points. I have put a full listing about the Brera which is on eBay. If you go on my community page, I've put a link to that eBay listing in there so you can find it on there, and also put it in the description below as well. So if you are interested, please do go and look at the full listing. It gives a few more details on there. But so we're going to get an overview of the car. We're also going to be looking back and seeing how far we've come with the Alfa as well. So this Alfa that I never intended to buy, but I was at the time looking for a car for the YouTube channel. So I always go into Leamington Car Club. I was occasionally going there, and I always have a look on their website to see if anything interesting is coming up. And sure enough, one day I saw this car pop up, so I went down to have a look at it on a very cold and dark January night. And I was down there with my friend Eddie, and he can vouch how cold and dark it was down there. It really isn't the best type of weather to buy cars in. So I was going around with my iPhone looking at the car. There were quite a few little number of issues with it, a couple of issues when I drove it home, but anyway, the main issue I wanted to get dealt with straight away was all round every wheel arch. Like when I bought my SLK, there was a bit of bubbling rust, so I sent this car down to Bromyard Body Repairs to get it all sorted. They did a fantastic job. They pretty much resprayed all the lower parts of the tyre of the cars. They did such a fantastic job. There was a little bit of a hole in one of the sills, which the rust was eating through, so they did some welding to that as well. So fantastic. I think they did a great job on that, so I'm really pleased with the work they've done. I then used the car a little bit. I've done a few little things such as new wipers, new indicators, lenses, new centre caps, a few little bits and pieces. There was also like a bulb out at the back. I've done that, so a few little bits and pieces. Other than that, it's given it a really good clean. So we've done that, and I think we're at sort of March time by the time I've done all that. You would have seen one of my recent videos. I took this car over to Wales. That's just one thing I did. We did a day trip, did about 230 odd mile in a day, and this car didn't miss a beat. I was really pleased with it, and overall I'm really pleased with the way this car drives. Now, I have of course used it a few other times as well. I've been sort of potting around this car, and I've really enjoyed using this car. Now let me just grab the MOT sheet and tell you how big of a fail this car had. So this car failed its MOT. It has now passed. I have now addressed all the major issues. So it had 4 repair immediately major defects. So it had suspension arm corroded and seriously weakened on the offside rear, suspension arm ball joint excessively worn near side front upper, suspension arm ball joint dust cover no longer prevents the ingress of dirt, offside front lower, and service brake excessively binding offside front. It had a couple of advisories as well. Exhaust is a minor leak of gas in the rear. Brake disc worn, pitted or scored on the offside front, and tyre close to legal limits was worn on the offside edge on the offside front. So I wasn't too worried about the advisory because I was just thinking it does say monitor and repair if necessary. It was the major issues, the major defects, and the stuff that we need to repair immediately. So I had a quote from the garage for the suspension arm, which is a big part of this car. That's a major thing that he failed on, and it basically had a hole probably about that size in it, which I'm slightly amazed that it hadn't been picked up on any other MOT. I don't know how a hole that size appears in the year, but as I mentioned last week, I won't go too much into that. Not that it bothered me, even though I'm talking about quite a bit. But anyway, so what work has this car had done? Let me just turn this over. So we have had suspension lower arm, which is on the rear here, that's been removed and installed. For new one, I got a quote for that for £1,100 from the garage, and they said that's far too high. I may source my own £193 off eBay, so that's too bad. So we've had 1 brake caliper on this side. We've also had the front discs and pads replaced on the front, that's on both sides. We've also had a suspension upper arm, and also a front near side lower ball joint boot. We've had that done as well. So quite a bit of work it had done, but thankfully now it has passed its MOT. and we've just left with the couple of advisories on there for the exhaust. Has a minor leak of gases in the rear, something like with the bad box or somewhere, and tyre one close to legal limit on the offside front. So only a couple of little bits, and as I've just mentioned, those are things just to monitor and repair. So the tyre's probably still got some life left in it, to be honest. It's not really a big issue, but it's just something to keep an eye on. So you might well be wondering, well, why do I want to sell this car now that I've got it all sorted, now that it's got for an MOT, now I've spent quite a bit of money on it. I originally paid about £1,500 for this car, but I have had to put in quite a bit of work, and unfortunately it now owes me more than it's actually worth. Not by a lot, I must admit, but I'm probably only making a small loss on this car, to be completely honest. But the upside of that is that I've kept another Alfa on the road, and overall this is a really good car. I know a lot of people have commented that are Alfa enthusiasts on this car, and I've made the videos, and they've said how good this car is for to have so few issues. Really, okay, it's had a bit of a bad MOT fail, but it could have been a lot worse. There could have been a lot more issues. So I'm glad that I've managed to keep this car going, and I almost feel now it's ready for its next owner. I would really love to keep this car. I think this is such a fantastic car. I love the way this car drives. I know it's a good car. And yes, I would really like to keep this, if I'm being bluntly honest with you. However, I've got a couple of things going on, and I could do some money for those things. So unfortunately, something is going to have to go, and I think that's going to have to be the Alfa. So are there any other issues I haven't quite sorted? Well, I mentioned about these little bits of trim. They don't bother me. I've put a heat gun on there, and they've actually gone down a little bit, but I'll still stick up a little bit on the end here. The oil temperature gauge still doesn't work. I haven't got one to look at that. The parking sensors are intermittently working, and then the only other thing is on the driver's seat. There's a little bit of stitching that split, but to be honest, it doesn't really bother me that much. So a few little things that a new owner could do there. So this is going to make a great car for someone. And overall, yes, it has done 108,000 miles, this car, but I think it looks fairly good. There are still a few little age-related marks on there. It's not perfect on the bodywork, mainly on the areas that haven't been painted, but overall it certainly doesn't look like a car that's done 108,000 miles, to be honest. So Buddy's come to join me to remind me to tell you the important details about the Alfa. That, again, if you are interested in this car, really fantastic car, this one. I don't want to sell it, but it is time, and I want to say I want to get the money back and put it into other stuff, to be honest. So Alfa is currently for sale on eBay and Facebook Marketplace. I will put a link in the description to the eBay advert. Obviously, I'm filming this on Thursday. This video is going out Friday, so it might already be sold. You never know. Someone might have sold 24 hours of this video. It will go out. And I am currently asking $3,750 for this car, which I think is quite a fair price considering the amount of work that's gone into this car, and considering that this is a properly sorted car and you can go away and have quite a bit of fun motoring and not have necessarily any big bills coming up because it is sorted. So $3,750 to ask this car. I am very much open to offers, and I am based in the Worcestershire area, so please do let me know if you are interested. If you drop me a comment, you can also email me hello@stevensforward.co.uk. Still feels great to drive this car. It just puts a smile on my face. So I'm sat here smiling, and I'm sort of starting to wonder, why am I selling this car when I could be having so much fun. Oh dear. So this is I thought we could have a little last drive in the Alfa, and I'm slightly regretting it because every time I drive this car I realise how nice this car to drive. That's nicely done, so how lovely this car is to drive. I can't believe how almost German it feels. I've said this all before, and how the ball quality feels really good. The drive feels nice. I wish the engine had a tiny bit more power, but you could always get it tuned, and so it gets a little bit more power in there. I think that's the one thing that I find slightly disappointing about this car. It feels quicker than it actually is. I think the 0 to 60 time about 8.5 seconds, I believe. So it's not the quickest car in the world, but nor is it particularly slow. I mean, my SLK is actually quicker, but then that does have a supercharger strapped to it, so and it's probably a bit lighter as well, so that probably helps. It does run best, this car. It just drives best when it's typically Italian, when it's absolutely floored and you've got the revs really high. Anything above sort of 3,000 RPM, it runs really well. There we go. Well, we've had a bit of fun now. Let's calm it down a little bit. But yes, it just puts a massive smile on my face. I also like to point out that I haven't ripped the absolute wattage off it while it's been carved. It warm up a little bit. But yes, anyway, I have spoken about this car a lot and how it makes me feel. And I've also spoken about why an Alfa feels so special and why people like Top Gear Grand Tour always used to say you've got to own an Alfa. As a car enthusiast, you've got to own an Alfa at some point. And you know what? After owning one for 6 months, they're absolutely completely right. I've never driven a car quite like the Alfa. It never had a car that makes me feel the way this car feels. But I can't explain why. It is just the feel of this car, the way it pulls really well, the way it handles. It's just something about it that I can't put my finger on. Even after 6 months of owning this car and putting 500-600 miles on this car, I can't quite explain why this car feels so special. You'll just have to take my word for it. I know other Alfa owners have said the exact same thing, that you can't explain why. It is just something about the cars that make you feel so good. And it's unlike any of the other cars that I've owned. Now, bearing in mind, this isn't my first Italian car. I have actually owned an Abarth before now, but that felt fun to drive. That was go-kart like, but it didn't quite have the same sort of feel as this car. It did feel slightly different. So I've owned this car for about 6 months now, and I bought it purely as a car to experience 6 months and then to sell on. And it really has gotten under my skin, this car, possibly more than any other car I've owned. Like my R107 SL, that was a car I always dreamed of owning. My SLK was a car I had a bit of a funny relationship to begin with, but then after about 6 months or so, it started to get on my skin. It took me a bit more time to bond with that car, to be honest. But this car, I fell in love with this car pretty much the first time I drove it. And this is the only problem with doing this type of thing, where I'm buying a car only for 6 months to a year and then selling them on. I did worry that I would fall in love with the car, and that's what's happened with this Alfa. And the decision to sell is from up here, it's from my head. My heart is just screaming out saying don't do it, you'll regret it. And I probably will regret selling this car, to be honest, but it makes more sense up here. Unlike my R172 SLK that I sold last year, I was sort of, my head and my heart were singing off the same hymn sheet, and I was ready to let that car go, even though I'd had it for 6 years. It was time. Yeah, I really don't want to sell this thing. It just drives so nicely. It looks good. So many people look at this car as you're driving down the road. I don't want to sell it, but I know my head says I should, and I've got to start listening to my head a little bit more about cars. I'm so driven by the heart whenever I do anything with cars, really. And that's a terrible thing, particularly for my bank balance as well. I've also had the opportunity to buy back the Mini that I had. You know, remember I had a Mini R50 Mini Cooper, probably about 6 months ago. And I've had the opportunity to buy that back from the friend that I sold it to, and I was so tempted with that as well. But I kind of thought, I've already got this, I've already got my 3 cars, don't really need another car, to be honest, particularly another car I know it needs a little bit of work doing to it. So I've had to do a bit of a head decision on that as well, not decision from the heart. So I'm coming overall sensible. I'm not sure unless you like it my bank balance is, but I'm starting to be a little bit more sensible. I don't like it, to be honest. Not when it comes to cars. I'm thinking in my head for everything else in life, but cars are the one thing I do very much follow my heart on. So this is going to be it now. This is goodbye to the Alfa. I will put an update if this car sells on my YouTube community page, so keep your eyes out for that. So I suppose it's going to be goodbye from me. Goodbye for the Alfa for the very last time, and we will see you again soon. Goodbye.